Christmas time is the perfect time of the year for giving gifts to your family and friends. However, the first English colonists only gave gifts to the poor and to the slaves out of Christian piety. But you know, it was actually the German immigrants that brought the custom to the United States, and it was very popular from the mid-1800s. Well, I have the perfect gifts for you. Quilts, of course. Gosh, wouldn't you love to make a quilt for everybody? Well, today I want to show you how to make several different patterns, all using those piece squares, that technique. Now look at this beautiful quilt. Oh, out of holiday colors. Don't you know somebody that would just love to snuggle in that quilt? Oh, it's so beautiful. Now, is there a bachelor on your gift list? Because I have the perfect answer. The Bachelor's Puzzle Pillow. Now, Orion made this one, and he matched those points so perfectly. It's great. Now, I took this same block, and I made 12 of them. Sew them all together. You are going to love this quilt because it's so pretty. And you create this whole different effect in that overall pattern. Now, if it's the first time for you to make piece squares, I'm sure you're puzzled over that technique. Boy, Oh, Ryan. Oh, I'm so glad you came.
Me too.
Oh, thanks for the logs.
You're welcome.
Listen, now that you're here, could you take the puzzle out of that Bachelor's Patchwork?
Sure, and I'll sew it for you too.
Ryan, I think you're everybody's favorite bachelor.
I don't know about that, but I got my fabrics all laid out.
Oh, well, that's good, too. What do you have?
Well, I have my white and my red laid out right sides together.
That's good.
With my green and my red.
And
my green and my white.
And they're all right sides?
Right sides together.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do here is cut a 8x4 inch rectangle using the square up.
That sounds good. What about that salvage over there?
Well, I moved it over so I wouldn't get the salvage in the block.
Good idea.
And I'm going to turn this around.
And now
we have an 8x4 inch square.
Perfect one.
Perfect.
Looks good. Get that corner cut.
And
what about those scraps?
Oh.
Yes, don't forget. Important.
And then I'm going to lay this out.
Okay.
And draw a 4-inch line with my 6x6.
That's a good size. Good convenient size ruler to use.
Yeah.
And so you would divide all 3 sets.
Yes.
With that 4-inch.
But I'm only going to do this one.
Okay.
And with the diagonal line, I'll line that up with the just drawn line.
That's good.
With all 2 corners and draw my diagonal line.
You know, whenever you get that ruler right in that very corner, I think that's the beginning of your perfect matches.
Yes. And especially you need to pin this so it doesn't shift before I hit the sewing machine.
Whoa!
And
in seconds.
Yeah, in a second.
You're sewing.
And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Okay.
And zip down this.
You line up your foot right on that diagonal line.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. You know, how old were you when we did our first program together?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I know how old you were. You were just 12 years old then.
Was I?
Yes, I remember because I was taller than you then.
Probably a month later, I towered you.
Probably true. We did the Irish chain. That was a lot of fun. Strip quilting. You've come a long way. You're doing some piece squares now.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're going down the second side,
Yeah.
other diagonal side. Perfect 1/4 with a 1/2 inch in between.
Yep. And I'll pull out the pin so you can press it.
Ooh, it's my job.
Yeah.
Better do it right now, especially if you did it right so far. Okay, we found out that if you don't set the seam just like this, then you get some distortion a little bit later on. Better to do it now.
Now I'm going to cut on both of the drawn lines.
Okay. Up and over. You know, I was just thinking, what will you get Grant this Christmas?
Probably a new set of sharp drills.
I was thinking when you were using that rotary cutter, he needs more tools.
Okay, I'm going to hand it back to you to do
Okay.
some Darth Vader ironing.
Okay, to the dark side this time. Okay, drop it light on the bottom and just lift that right up and over. Oh, Orion, these look good. Little seam here. Perfect. Let me see if I'm getting that right. Yes, seam to the dark side. Now we would have 2 more sets, 4 of each, just like this. Well, whenever I did those 12 blocks, you know, I did all that sewing. I think I did those in about 3 minutes. I was pretty proud.
Okay, now I'm going to use again this diagonal line on the 6x6, and I'm going to square each square up to 3.5 inches.
Okay, so you just center
it and
it.
trim around the
Trim off those tips.
tips. Yeah.
And turn that, see, just really little bits of sliver trimming there. And move it some more. Gosh.
There we go.
That,
Save us some
I'm
time.
impressed.
I did these ahead of time.
Oh, you're cake in the oven, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
now when
lay
you
it
lay
out.
that out, you put all the,
Whites in the center
good.
with the reds and the green.
Why don't you move that ruler just up a little bit so we can go
Oh,
ahead
this
and,
ruler?
yeah, and check that block. You're flying. Turn those little angles so you have that. Yes, that's good. That's good. You know, I was thinking about my favorite Christmas was the time that we went to Cloudcroft, New Mexico. We took Judy and Grant.
I
We
remember
drove
that.
over. I remember every time we fell asleep, Judy stepped on the gas.
Yeah,
She was flying.
anxious.
She was having a good time. And boy, we got out the snowmobile. We were riding in the snowmobile with Pat and Tom. And you boys went skiing.
Yeah,
That
I
was
remember
fun.
that. We went
That
to
was-
ski Apache.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was fun.
I remember that.
Okay, I have
Looking
my
good.
squares laid out.
Nice
and-
red star right in the center.
You divide each line with the A, the B, the C, and the D.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do
Vertical.
is... Yeah, vertical. And I'm going to sew along this between the A and the B line. So I'm going to flip the B onto the A,
Okay.
right sides together,
That's good. stack
them up, and bring them to the sewing.
Okay. You do this like a pro.
Pro sewing.
I could tell you've done this before.
Yep,
You know, I really
couple
like
times.
I like that trip around the world quilt
Oh
that
yeah,
you made for
I haven't
Shannon.
seen that in a long time.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was for your girlfriend. Relationship didn't last, but she kept the quilt. What do you think about that?
Yes, she did.
Oh well. But we did teach her to sew. That was one of the best things that we did. Okay, so you're just butting those on one after the other. And right there, yeah, lift up your presser foot so you can keep that seam flat. And really all you need to do is just match those outside edges, because if you did that squaring technique with those diagonal lines right in there, boy, this is going to be good. Right there is a tricky batch right there too. So you're going to go down this row, and then what are you going to do?
I'm going to flip the C onto the B. And
Good.
start the exact same thing as I
And
did before.
Keep on going down.
Yep.
All right. Well, I did one already. Had to show you what Orion's doing with these vertical rows from top to bottom, because I want you to take a close look at these seam allowances and what they look like. Now, right here, this is what he's doing. As he goes down, you can see how that looks right there. And you've got this from the right side. See how you have that 1/4 inch seam? And so whenever you go back across the other way, let's take a look at this, because that's going to line up, and you have to carefully make your stitches hit right on that V, so you get a crisp point on the other side. And then the same thing, look up here. See the back side? How that seam goes right across there. There's that 1/4 inch in. You can see that on both sides. Ooh, wait till you see the sharp point on the other side. How that looks right there. That looks pretty good. And up here you can see that seam too. But it helps actually if you sew in some red thread. When you're first matching this, then you can really see those 1/4 inch seams, all those V's and all those matches. So what do you think? You've got it all together now?
Yeah,
Boy, I hope they're in good order.
they are.
Oh, we're going to check. Well, Well, I'll tell you what, Orion, you have taken the mystery out of this block.
I hope so.
So next, why don't you just go ahead, finish that, and you can go cut some more logs.
All right, and I'll start the fire too.
Okay. Ooh, I'm getting cold. Sounds good.
All right.
His work is incredible. That Orion really is a star. Now I want to show you how to take this block and turn it into a pillow. And boy, he gave me good instructions so I get it right. Now I added borders to all 4 sides. These are 1 3/4 inch borders. I just added to 2 sides, squared them off, and have those last 2 sides, just waiting for you to square them up, because boy, you don't want to have crooked corners. So if you take your ruler and you just line up a line on the ruler with the seam, both edges, and then just trim off so you've got those corners straight. And I think I'll just turn this around, line up that ruler again. And when you're doing quilts, you actually do that same kind of thing. Oh, this is looking a little crooked down here. Might trim that off there. Okay, now the next step is a folded border, and that comes from a 1 1/4 inch piece. I just took 2 strips, 1 1/4 inches wide, and pressed them so that the wrong side is in the inside, just like this. This is a very narrow border that actually gives a look that it was sewn right into the seam. But you just take that and place it right on top and pin it on 2 opposite sides. Let me just trim this one even here. Do one on the opposite side, and then this time again, and that fold is going in towards the middle, and you're lining up those raw edges. Now you can pin this down and stitch it down, but then we're going to go on and add some buttons to it, and I want to show you how that looks, because the pillow has 3 different sizes of strips now. Here's the border here, here's that folded border right here, and the piece that gets attached right here to the pillow is a 15-inch piece. It's going to go right across there, and then you have 2 long sides. One is 3 inches wide and one is 8.5 inches wide, and that 8.5 inch wide strip gets pressed under in 2-inch folds, and then see how you put the buttons and the buttonholes right along there. And actually it's just great, particularly for a bachelor, because you can put your pillow inside, but whenever you're ready to launder it, just unbutton it, and then you can go ahead and just toss this cover right in the washer. It works really easy. Well, I figured out the fastest way to get those pieces was some tearing. Oh gosh, it feels so good just to do some tearing, get it done quickly. So take your fabric and line it up first at 0, the left end at 0. The first piece I said was going to be 15 inches, so I'm just going to go ahead and nick right at 15 inches and tear it from selvage to selvage. Now this needs to be 25 inches long, and this should be about just the width of your block with your border. So tear it first 15, and then over here this is 23, 24, and 25. Let me just trim that off, and that's ready. That's a lot faster than cutting, isn't it? But this piece gets sewn on right here, right on the end of your pillow. At left you've got your little folded border. Let me lay that out. And if it's not exactly the same size, you can go ahead and trim this piece up so that it fits your block. Okay, the next piece is going to be a 3-inch strip. Whoa, just line that up on your selvage edge. Now you can do this with 100% cotton. It works just great. Take a nick at 3 inches, tear that. This piece has to be 39.5 inches long. And when you sew that on, then this is going to go right along there like that. That looks good. Now there's only one more piece that you need, and that's an 8.5 inch wide piece. Let me go this way. Line that up right here. Take a nick on the selvage. 8.5 inches, 39.5 inches long, and that's for the opposite side. This is where we're going to go ahead and do the folding for the pillow. So let me show you that. I found out with this mat, it works so well for pressing. If you just take it and lay it so that it's wrong sides up, line it up so that you have a straight edge right along here, and I see a straight edge down here on the opposite side. Now I want to turn this edge under 2 inches. So if you look at this grid, you can see it's straight here, so if I just fold it right like that, this is one thing I always hated to do whenever I was making dresses and such, was just exactly how to get this piece folded straight. Then if you watch down here on this end, you can see it. Just slide it along and just constantly follow the grid and press that under 2 inches. Once you have it pressed under once, then just take it a second time. Go ahead, fold it down, line it up on that grid on your mat, and press it again. Oh. So now we've got this piece that's all pressed, folded, and this goes right onto the other side of the pillow. So we've got all 3 pieces sewn onto the pillow, and just watch this. Watch how fast we can do this because I already have it sewn. This is exactly what that piece is going to look like. Now there's just 2 more seams that you're going to do. All you're going to do is just take this piece and fold it right sides together, fold out that end, and sew right across there, right sides together. And then the last step is just to go ahead and roll this so that the block is centered. You roll it so that it's centered, and then you do that one last seam on the 3-inch side, and then you'll have that pillow completely ready. Oh, let me grab this one back up here. You have it completely ready for putting in your buttons, your buttonhole. Oh my gosh, you don't have to be a bachelor to love this pillow. Do you remember the story about Jacob from the book of Genesis? Well, he stole his twin brother Esau's birthright. Oh, he was in big trouble at home. So he fled. Now, when he was out, he rested one night, he laid down, used a rock as a pillow. In a dream, there were angels from God ascending and descending from heaven to earth. Well, it's not hard to see why they named this quilt pattern Jacob's Ladder. Oh, you can just see those angels ascending and descending. Well, Ruby Saunders made this quilt, in the 1920s, 1930s, and now her granddaughter, Nancy Loftus, owns it. Oh, she loves that pattern. She took that Jacob's Ladder pattern, did some color variations, and created the beautiful Starlight, Starbright. Oh, just look at that white star right there. And then you can see the peace stars, the gold, black stars in that dark background. Oh, it's wonderful. Well, it also has pieced squares in it as well, but it has 4-patch too, and you have to make those 4-patch first and measure them. Now they come from 2.5-inch strips, and I already did my sewing. 2.5-inch strips, the green, the black. You just press the seams to one side. Because they're 2.5-inch strips, then all you're going to do is just take your ruler, line that up, and cut it into 2.5-inch sections, and then just sew that together. Ooh, and take that 4-patch and measure it. Because the size of this depends on what the piece triangle is going to be. Let's see. Well, looks about 4.5 inches this way, just a little shy of 4.5 inches this way, real close to 4.5 inches. So I think that's the size that we want to get in our piece squares. Now to get those squares, they're a little bit different in construction because it's just a background. First you have a black and a gold, 10-inch squares. You have a black and a light, 10-inch squares, right sides together, just like Orion did. Let's see, I can't even split those apart. Right sides together. This time you draw on an X across those squares and you sew on both sides. Well, that's easy enough. Now, to cut those squares, we're going to do a different technique. Not going to use the 6x6 like Orion did to square them up. Just take a ruler that has diagonal lines. You're going to need to have one has diagonal lines going at a 45-degree angle across here. And we want to focus right down here at this 4.5-inch line right here at that red dash line going along there. So first thing I want to do is just go ahead, take the ruler, take the 6x12 and cut that into fourths right in those lines. Now each one of these pieces are going to make 2 piece squares. So take the ruler and line up that 4.5-inch line. Let's see, right along. Yep, that looks good. I'm lining that 4.5-inch line, that red dash line, right up with that stitching line. And I'm actually going to push it just a little inward because we're going to lose just a little bit whenever we do the unfolding. So go straight across like this, straight across like this, and then take these tips right here, trim this off here, and trim this off here. Now, if I'm lucky, when I press this, this is going to be exactly the same size as my 4 patch. Okay, so just drop it down, dark on the top, and just press this up and over. It's actually a reverse process of what Orion did. Ooh, this looks good. So now this should be exactly the same size as that 4 patch. Let's see. Oops, it pulled up the one that's already open. Oh, that looks great. All right. So now to do the block, all you're going to need to do is those 2 combinations with the white and the black. Here's your 4 patches running right down there, that Jacob's ladder. If we can just go ahead and lay these out, let's see, like this. 4 blocks made identical. You need to have those 20 4 patches, and you just take them, sew the blocks exactly like Orion did, but then rotate the blocks so that you create, oh, that wonderful starlight, star bright, right in the center. Then all you need to do to finish it is add those borders, the binding, machine quilting. You'll have a beautiful quilt for the holidays. Sue Bouchard created this charming quilt, and it's called Woven Stars. Oh, it's wonderful with those 9 bright stars shining with the dark green background around the stars, and then the pink and the burgundy just weaving throughout that pattern. Well, the best thing about that pattern is the versatility of it. Oh my goodness, are you going to be surprised? Now you start out with just 4 different fabrics, and I'm using a pink, a white, a green, and then this multi-floral just pulls all 3 of those fabrics together. Well, they start out from 12-inch squares. Go ahead and layer cut them right sides together, and this is how you want to arrange your fabric. Put them right sides together, the light and the green, and then the next set is the light with the pink, and then the multi-floral comes with both of them, the multi-floral with the pink, and then once again with the green. Now that's the stack. Get them all cut, and the marking starts with a 4-inch grid. Just go down and across with a 4-inch grid, and then the next step is just a little bit different. Take your 6 by 24-inch ruler and drop it corner to corner like this, and oh my gosh, make sure that those lines go right through each other. Remember how this starts with perfect patterns. Diagonal lines straight through, and then come over to this corner and draw a line right here, and then on the opposite corner. Now when you're making piece squares, you only do 1 line per square, 1 diagonal line. Then take it and turn it the opposite way. So this whole center actually turns into a rectangle of sorts right through there. Now it's a 1/4-inch seam allowance, and you're going to go down both sides of the straight line, and then a 1/4-inch seam right around that rectangle. If you look very closely, then you can see it right in here. Cut it apart, square it up to 3.5 inches, and then the fun starts. This is what you need to make 1 block. You need to have 2 pieces from each one of those color arrangements. Plus go ahead and cut a 3.5-inch square just to put in the center of that star, because look at the fun. Here we have a pink star, just has that pink center right in it. Then just change it. Try a green star. If you get the same amount of fabric, do your piece squares, then all you really need to do is cut a different center square and see how you like it. Another star here, and look at this one. Oh, 4 different stars just from 1 color arrangement. You know, Candy Mittag took 2 different fabrics. She made two different colors of stars and set them together. And the wonderful thing is that a secondary pattern is created right here with it. Oh, this quilt feels so cozy and warm. I think I'll just wrap myself in it and sit by the fire with Orion.